now take a look at today's papers, and we're joined by Crikey founder and commentator Stephen Mayne. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning.
Very long time no see. We haven't seen you since you had your just failed tilt at an upper house seat in the Victorian Parliament.
And I'm now safely back being a feather duster, yes, having missed out. But, 1% of the vote would have been an outrage to get elected with that tiny primary vote. So
you would have taken it if you got it.
Oh, you take them when you get them. But, I'm happy to be back on the couch with you, Virginia.
Before we move on to the paper, just quickly, how many tilts at elected office is that now for you?
It's 7 political tilts, and then there's 40 public company tilts with $350 billion worth of stock voted against me. So, Australia's biggest electoral loser. Yeah, that's right. So, actually, we've got the mayoral election in my local council tomorrow night, so I'm sort of thinking, well, maybe I'll have a crack at that.
Why not? So, keep a perfect record. Look, you're having a look at The Age today, and what is it, day 13 of the WikiLeaks cables. What's today's story?
Well, it's a former germ scientist from the Saddam Hussein regime, supposedly wanted to come to Victoria University. And the Americans said, yes, we can put this guy here. And the Australian security people said, no, this guy's a security risk. We don't want him coming to Victoria University. So I thought it was a little bit weak. I didn't think it was as good as many of the other stories. But it does raise questions. Is this guy actually working with the US? Or is he a security risk? But the Canberra Times, Sydney Morning Herald, all the Fairfaxes went with it. And it was one of those ones where, some scientists coming to Australia, not so sure it was that strong.
Do you get the impression that Fairfax has basically gone with the stronger stuff on, day 1 to 3? The cables about Rudd and Gillard, and now they've got, hundreds, if not thousands more that they're going to be leaking out over the silly season.
Well, this is the question. Can you see that it's going to end up with day 396 of the week?
Potentially.
This can't go on forever.
Of who gives a damn, minor official in Upper Kumbucky saying about the president of,
Yeah. So I thought this one was maybe, this guy, germ scientist, and apparently you want to stop them from falling into the hands of the North Koreans, and so you've got to give them jobs in Western countries. And we said, no, don't want this guy.
What was intriguing to me, though, was the late date of it. 2008 was when the US was pressuring Australia. This is a couple of years ago. This is long after the Saddam Hussein regime and all those people had either been tried, incarcerated, dealt with. And now the US is saying that the Australia's rejection would seem to be odd.
Well, yeah, this guy's got the goods on, dodgy weapons, developments, biological warfare, etc. He did work for the bad guys, and now the Americans know him and want to contain him and just want to place him in friendly countries. And we've gone, well, he's working with the US, but no, we think he's a security risk.
Strange.
We don't want him.
You have to talk about the cricket, being a mad keen cricketer yourself.
Well, I mean, every paper has it, pretty much on the front page. The Courier Mail's gone for the local boy made good, Ryan Harris.
Beautiful shot. Look at that.
So they're very happy about their local boy getting six for 40 odd or so. Yeah.
Just staying with that picture. This is just inside newspaper talk, but it is unusual. You see how he's actually jumping up out of the picture. You've got that deep etch there, the top of his head going up into the masthead. That's unusual, and it's a very kind of magazine-y style rather than newspaper style, but it gives that photograph this real dynamism and that celebration of him that the Courier Mail's after. Yeah,
no, indeed. And I think the Daily Telegraph in Sydney went for, mongrel Aussies are back. There was a bit of sledging going on, and others are talking about world record crowd on Boxing Day at the MCG. And cricket needs it. The Test cricket is in trouble. Test cricket is in trouble. So they are the organisers are loving it, and talking about 250,000 people coming to the G for the Aussie MCG Test match.
Tell us the truth. 3-4 days ago, had you written the Aussies off? Had you written this test off?
Look, I had. And I thought that, we were going down. Ricky Ponting, 3-time Ashes losers, and amazing turnaround. Yeah. And, I mean, cricket needs it, and they will get, 60,000, 70,000 there on Boxing Day at the MCG.
And it's interesting, Ricky Ponting himself has said in his post-match comments yesterday that he and the team deserved every bit of bad commentary, every bit of bad press they got over the last week or two.
It's a very different Ricky Ponting.
It's a very different.
I've never
very sanguine man, isn't he?
Yeah.
So,
now, the Christmas Island boat tragedy, of course, the political gloves are coming off at last.
Yes, well, Tony Abbott is back saying, Nauru solution and a Pacific solution and get tough, and I'm not going to be involved in these working parties looking into the tragedy. So some people saying didn't take long for the the nice spirit to smash. And the other element was the Sydney Morning Herald had an interview with Andrew Wilkie, where he's come out and revealed that Tony Abbott, as part of his duchessing to get his support, offered to double the refugee intake.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you've got Tony Abbott talking tough as usual, and the other hand, you've got Tony Abbott saying, well, I would have doubled the refugee intake, according to Andrew Wilkie.
That's right. It exposes Tony Abbott on that side, but on the other side, it continues to expose this very strange character, Andrew Wilkie, who turned down a whole lot of money for his own state, who turned down a doubling of the refugee intake, and you would have thought, given what we understand about Andrew Wilkie, that actually would have mattered to him in order to get him on side with the coalition and for the coalition to form government. The offerings that were made to him and that he refused increasingly seem strange.
Well, yes, but at the end of the day, he was a former Greens candidate, and he fell out with the Howard government and they absolutely persecuted him when he was a whistleblower. So they could have offered him everything under the sun, and I think arguably he was probably never going to side with Tony Abbott. And it's surprising that Tony Abbott tried so hard. I mean, it's a very strange message for Tony Abbott to be beating up on both people during the election campaign and then saying we'll double the refugee intake in negotiations with Andrew Wilkie.
And then add to that the WikiLeaks revelation of last week about the senior Liberal who
That's right. Who said more votes were fantastic for the coalition, which they haven't denied. I put it to Julie Bishop last week, and she was saying she didn't know who it was, but it's certainly
a shockingly cynical political line, isn't it?
She did say she'd never heard that.
Yeah.
She'd never heard any Liberals say that.
Well, everyone knows that the bigger the disaster for the Labor government, the better it is politically for the Liberals. But you can't ever be seen to be associated with such a cynical political assessment.
No. Now, speaking of walking disasters, Shane Warne.
Shane Warne,
back in the headlines.
Liz Hurley, got this whole new thing happening, and now apparently it's all over because he sent 100 texts to the woman, the mother of two, who runs the leather shop opposite the Shane Warne Foundation
in Brighton. Warning and the leather shop mum. So, across the top of the
what
head,
a headline.
I mean,
speaking of heads coming out at the top of the...
Look at that, and the underlining of another. And they've got details of the text. So clearly the scorned husband here has actually given the text to the News of the World, which is running them, verbatim. The
scorned husband has now set up his own Twitter account and is now tweeting about Shane Warne. And I will not say to you what he's tweeted this morning because it's not for a family-friendly program. So he's the scorned, angry husband. He's also dumping his wife in it, apparently, by going so public with all these text messages, and is serving it right back to Shane Warne. Look, it's a tawdry little affair. I've started a discussion this morning on Twitter about whether, we here on News Breakfast, should be following the husband or not. And there's one following and one not at the moment, but it's hard to avoid, isn't it?
Look, it's an extraordinary story. I mean, Liz Hurley, it's gone global. I mean, that was just a huge tabloid scoop. And a week later to get, Lizzie not happy because of another Warne travesty.
And used Twitter to say that.
And she said Twitter saying it's like the Jerry Springer show. It's nothing to do with me anymore. So she's flicked him on Twitter almost.
But still, he's such a compelling character to so many people.
I can't believe
for all of his sins.
I can't believe so many people. He has sent thousands of texts now, and then he pleads for people, don't release them. Well, stop sending texts, Warnie.
I know, but nonetheless, I still admire him as a cricket player. I admire him as a bowler.
World's best bowler, and not a bad commentator, and just shame about the rest.
It's a very good point. Stephen, good to see you.
Thanks, Virginia.
And have a great Christmas.
You too.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen.